This is a video tutorial on how to do UV texture mapping. I'm going to texture map this cube. The first thing we want to do is select the cube and then get into edit mode. With all the faces selected, go to the materials panel and create a new material. With the material selected, hit the Assign button. Make sure that all of your faces are selected. We've now assigned this material to all the faces. With the material selected, open the Texture panel and create a new texture. Make sure that the type says Image or Movie. Come down and open. Go to the folder that has your models and select your texture image. It should be in the same folder as the model you're creating. Go down to the mapping section. Make sure that the coordinates is set to UV. That means that we're going to edit the texture coordinates. And we now have texture coordinates, texture mapping on this object. They're probably not the texture coordinates we want, and so we want to edit the texture coordinates. There's a UV image editor, and there's a default screen setting to be able to see it and the 3D model. It's up here in the layout settings. Pick UV editing. And over in the left window, which is your UV editor window, select the display and pick the image that you're using for texture map. You would want your 3D view to be set to texture mode so that you can see the texture on the 3D object and you can see your image over here. Alright, what we want to do is unfold this, cut it at edges so that we can lay it down flat on the image. This is done by selecting edges. So let's unselect everything. Let's scoot the window over so that we can get our selection tools, and let's change it to edge selection. We're going to pick the edges that are going to be used to cut the model. So I'm going to pick the vertical edges, and basically I want the top face and then all of the side faces to basically fold up. But what are we going to do with the bottom faces? Well, we can leave this edge here, but we need to go ahead and cut here as well. So basically the top, the side, and the bottom are going to all be connected. This is going to be separated from the bottom and its sides. This edge is still connected. This edge is still connected. So hopefully you could visualize that we could cut at those edges and lay the model flat. I'm going to hit Control E to bring up the Edge menu, and I'll say Mark the Seams. So those edges have now become seams that the model can be cut at. I need to select all of the faces, so I'll get back into face mode and make sure I have all of the faces selected. I'll hit U, not Control or anything, just U. And this is the UV mapping menu, and I'm going to unwrap the model. What you see over on the left is the position of each face on the image. At the bottom, there's a control right here that will let me keep the UV editing window and the 3D view window in sync. I recommend turning that on. That way, if I select something in the 3D editor, it highlights it in the UV editor. If I select something in the UV editor, it highlights it in the 3D. So I know at all times the correlation between the unwrapped face and the 3D model face. Now you can use all of your standard editing tools to edit these texture coordinates. I'm going to hit A to unselect all, hit A to select all. I'll hit G for grab, and I can move these texture coordinates around. Do you see how it's moving in the 3D model? So you could position this to where you have the content that you want for each face out of the image. I'll hit enter to accept that position. I can also scale. I can also rotate. I can also do like box select. So unselect all, hit B, and now I've selected that guy. You can actually unconnect these, so I could hit G for grab. And now then this face, you're not seeing it in the 3D view because it's on the back side, but this is now going to allow me to put any part of the texture image on that face. Let's do that again with this face, and you can see what that looks like. I'm just changing the texture for that face. All the others remained unchanged. Of course, I could hit Control Z and Control Z to get it back like it was. And so you can see that I can change the UV, the texture coordinates, for every single vertex and immediately see what it looks like on the model. That is UV texture coordinate editing.